On March 8th, I hugged my friend Gloria, who's here today. I was very excited to see her because I knew I was going to be talking about her. I hugged Gloria and we both backed away, feeling very sheepish and awkward. And many of you were there. This was at the Ventura County Women's Festival, March 8th, the last event where I spoke to an in-person audience. It was a weird day, right? Do you remember? I don't know how many of you were there, but I know a lot of you were. And we had just been told we couldn't hug anyone. So we fist bumped and we elbow touched, and then we would draw back from the occasional accidental hug, feeling naughty, but not really sure why. 3 days later, it occurred to me that I could refresh my old online course on webinars and help people who might actually have to start providing online workshops. I already knew that a lot of people didn't know how to give virtual presentations, and I had already been doing it for about 8 years. And then on that very same day, March 11th, I got a phone call from a colleague of mine in the National Speakers Association, and she said their Saturday meeting had just been moved online and their scheduled speaker was unable to deliver remotely. And could I throw something together about public speaking and present in his place? Well, I said yes, as one does, and then began scrambling to complete this revised workshop that I hadn't actually delivered in 5 years. At 8 a.m. Saturday morning, March 14th, I was teaching my fellow speakers how to deliver virtual presentations. 5 days later, California went into lockdown. As a speaking coach and a trainer, I started delivering online workshops way back in the day when we called them teleseminars. Does anybody remember teleseminars? Anybody? That's where someone would deliver content over the phone and people would all dial into a conference line, a teleconference line. I delivered my first teleseminar in 2012. And then some years after that, the technology advanced to where we could actually start including slides. And if people were lucky enough to be at their computers, they could call in on the phone and they could see the slides at the same time. It was very high tech. So by April of last year, as you know, 2 words had taken over our vocabulary. Unprecedented was the first one, but the second one was pivot, right? The second one, immediately everybody was pivoting. So when 𝗵𝗵 reached out to me and asked me to share my experience of last year, I honestly said, I'm not a good fit because I didn't pivot. I didn't really consider what I did pivoting. But it turns out that even though I didn't technically pivot, I did adapt. And I think that's probably a more accurate description of what many of us did, and that's what I'm going to share today. I think my biggest learning last year was that I had hidden skills that were worth paying for. So in addition to developing the Go Virtual training, which is the program I just described to you, I also began offering a training on leading and facilitating support groups remotely for some of my nonprofit clients. And in fact, I just finished delivering that training today to one of my clients right before this event. The Go Virtual training, I think I've delivered 5 times now, both to the public and to my private training clients. And I also turned it into an on-demand product on my website. And then after, I will pop over and look over at the chat occasionally, but I know Kate's managing that. After hearing from a client of mine about her frustrations delivering one of 10 presentations in an hour, 10 presentations in an hour, and she's been asked to do this twice, I then realized that the new virtual environment was prompting meeting planners and organizers to cram a lot more speakers into a shorter amount of time, because all they had to do now was click a button to start the next presentation, right? So I reached out to my speaker colleagues and I asked them what kinds of presentations they had been asked to do in 5 minutes or less. And their responses ran the gamut from actual keynotes to speaker introductions, conference breakouts, panels, nonprofit fundraising presentations, and more. And I ended up with this really long list. And my next workshop then began to take shape, and that was my workshop on micro presentations, which several of you are giving today. So that online workshop was so well received that I then expanded it into a mini retreat of 3 half days, where the participants are able to create, complete, and practice an entire 5-minute presentation for coaching and feedback. And then seeing how many business leaders are bringing their really terrible slides to the remote environment, I've decided to bring back some of my previous trainings on best practices for slide design, as well as currently brainstorming a new presentation on how to help people create aligned images on their slides that match their intellectual property, their personality, and their presentations style. Oh, thank you, Irene. Irene loved my workshop. And another kind of funny thing I did last year was get certified as a virtual presenter, which is a certification that never existed before. Now, Weave staff can tell you, including Irene, who just commented, Weave staff can tell you that even with my fancy virtual presenter certification, it still took me over 5 minutes to resolve a sound issue on our micro presentations training last week. So being adaptable also means that something will always go wrong and that we know how to roll with it. Just the other day, I came across a great line in an article on entrepreneur.com. The line was, odds are, if you need to pivot, either you've made a major miscalculation or you're just growing and adapting, not pivoting. And that was from 2018, by the way. So the pivot thing has been around for a while, not just during COVID. So perhaps in my own mind, I didn't pivot, but rather I revisited, I revised, I reimagined content and ideas that I already had and that happened to be a perfect fit for the moment. I had several aha moments when I realized, wait, I know how to do that and other people don't, which is, you know, the kind of the basis of all entrepreneurs, right? I know how to do that and other people don't. And then also, hey, I know how to teach this super cool thing. The thing is, every entrepreneur has an incredible, both wide and deep content library or idea library that they can tap into at any time, generally developed over years of trial and error, brainstorms, and masterminds. But sometimes we don't see the timeliness of our ideas, or we don't realize that some of our outdated content, our products, our programs, our services, can be easily refreshed. I actually have a coach who says, repurpose the crap out of everything. And she doesn't create a piece of content unless it can be repurposed 3 times, which is, I think, a really good lesson for all of us. It's so much easier to revise or repurpose something you already have than to start from scratch. It's like when eco-fashion experts tell us to shop our closets instead of buying new. I shopped my closet last year, and I actually came up with some fun new outfit combinations. If you follow me on Facebook or Instagram, you've seen them because I post everything there. My entire life is there. But I also found out that I could shop the closet of my business. And I found that I could put together new combos using media, platforms, concepts, solutions, research, models, constraints, and creativity that I already had at my fingertips. I look forward to hugging you all again soon without feeling guilty about it. Thank you.
We look forward to that too, Lisa. Thank you.